Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the broadcast. I'm newtmechanist, and tonight we're going to be continuing our playthrough of the Apollo Justice games. We are getting towards the actual start of a new trial. Should be a lot of fun. Before we get into that, though, let's check in with the kitties. They have scattered to some extent. As is tradition for the beginning of the stream, we have Mason noticing something at the window on the bed, and Sammy is sitting on my lap. Otherwise, see, Ember is getting a snack and no sign of Sky or Sherbet. Wonder where they are lurking. But yeah, Apollo Justice tonight. Should be fun. Let's get that rolling. Swing over to the desktop music because the game's very insistent that it should have a minimum read loud level of volume. Adjust chair, anger cat. Like, you can't turn it down any lower than this or it will go silent. I should probably turn on the game screen. I adjusted those pillows a little bit. Maybe we'll get some more visibility on the kitties. Time will tell. Sammy left my lap, so Ember has trotted over. Sammy can get a bit contentious about it. She will actually, if Ember has crawled up to, like, be held like a baby, then Sammy will try to crowd in to take space across my lap. And in doing so, she will bump into Ember, and Ember is remarkably picky about that. Audio should be working fine. If you see trouble with it, let me know. Actually, double check real quick. We'll switch over to the cat cams while I do that. I'm paranoid. Hitting buttons. Do. Okay, it's actually working. Hopefully I didn't just break that. Okay, no, there it goes. Sorry about that, folks. Like I said, kind of paranoid about it. It tends to break down. Oop. And we get. Court is now in session for, how do I say that? Machi Tobayi, Your Honor, the Pixie of the Arpeggio. So this is the pianist, the blind pianist. Remember, if they're blind or mute, they might be deaf, actually. But the pianist for the singer that was key in this. There was a murder of the interpreter for the singer, who was kind of a pseudo-government agent or something like that, kind of a ambassador for the country since she was a big deal. He dies, and then subsequently his body is moved, and Maki, Either way, we're gonna say Maki. Maki is found unconscious next to where the body was moved to. So we are now representing Maki. Right, his trial. Court is in session. The defense is ready, Your Honor. This is a very narrative game, so feel free to ask questions, chat as per usual. There are no issues with such, because I have plenty of time to pause the reading and talk with you folks. There is no scuff. I am totally prepared for what I'm doing. I need to change the Twitch stream handle here. Pushing buttons. Again, sorry. Okay, back in. For realsies. Definitely for realsies. The prosecution is A-okay, Herr Judge. He is kind of pseudo-Eastern European, a very generic rock star character stereotype. And that he is the lead singer of the band that was performing when the murder took place. Sure, a bit looking around. Very well, Prosecutor Gavin. My opening statement, yeah? No, actually, there was something else I wanted to ask you about. Yes? Say you're going to visit someone in the hospital with an incurable disease. What do you say to them? It's a bit of a non sequitur, Judge. Eh? I mean, you wouldn't say get well soon, right? You'd only been kicking them while they're down. It's a very morbid line of inquiry we're going down here, ultimately. What are you talking about? Actually, I'm going to visit someone who is terminally ill. Right after this trial. The Chief Justice's son. Okay. This feels like, this may be important later, maybe? The Chief Justice? His son is afflicted with a most terrible disease. He doesn't have long, it seems. Ah. So I thought I'd go pay him a visit. Shifting chair. Jostling monitor. I thought saying something moving might be the order of the day. Why don't grown-ups ever just say what's on their mind instead of pretending? She's looking at me with something like disgust. Hey, what are you looking at me like that for? Gavel. In any case, I'm a bit busy today, so let's wrap this up quickly. Yeah, that's... The judge shouldn't be saying that. It indicates perhaps a preference for a hasty decision. Though, this judge is not necessarily known for rational behavior or decisions at any given moment. It is the way of this game, and these games in general. Prosecutor Gavin, your opening statement. Briefly. You're in luck, Herr Judge. I believe you'll be going on your hospital visit sooner than you think. First, to review the victim in this case. Romain Latouche, age 35. Global manager for diva songstress Lamoureux. I have no idea on her name. Lamoureux? Lamoroy. Cause of death, blood loss due to being shot by a large caliber revolver, like a big revolver. This report has all the details. Court accepts this into evidence. 45 caliber, that's quite large, isn't it? So we have the revolver that had the same gag of if you turn the barrel to face you, Apollo reacts, and it implies that Trilogy is aiming it at you. Between 9 p.m. and 9:30 p.m. Blood loss due to 45 caliber bullet wound. Time elapsed between shooting and death currently under review. Seems to be potentially critical evidence that is missing. We shall see. We shall see. Direct hit from that could knock a man off his feet. We don't know if it went all the way through. I thought there might be damage to the wall, so it was potentially a through-and-through kind of thing. And there hasn't been any speculation about this yet, or at least any description of what this is, but it looks like we might have the classic, victim wrote out the name of his killer or a last message kind of thing. We've seen that used as a misdirect before, where the actual killer uses the victim's finger to write the message. But if I recall, he was dying when we encountered him, so hard to say. However, the bullet struck him in the shoulder. The damage to the body was slight. Death was not immediate. Sadly, the blood loss was such that he could not be saved. I suppose the victim's condition could have been much worse, considering. Uh-oh. There's a kitty scuffle unfolding. Currently behind the desk, facing off. So there's our crime scene photo. Which one is walking up my legs? If it's Sherbet, I have concerns. His murder mitts are at full Death Razor mode. Yeah, that's Sherbet. Happily, he didn't try to scale my legs. He is tricky to get a hold of, period, so getting a hold of him to trim his mitts is not really in the equation at this point. 2 shots were fired. 1 shot missed, the other penetrated and passed through the victim's shoulder. Both bullets were found in the wall at the scene. Observe the diagram. This is where the bullets hit. See, the court accepts this into evidence. We're talking about a 45 caliber revolver. We must assume that the killer was adept at the weapon's use. I don't see why that's a clear assumption. They could have just been willing to sacrifice their stability and shoulder to fire a bit wildly. So a big part of the question is from where he was found, how was it fired upon him? What are you doing, buddy? I think he's trying to find Sky or Sammy again, who he was chasing around, but Really? Yeah, apparently weapons that size have a powerful kickback. Hey there, Demon Wolves. We're doing good. Getting back into our Ace Attorney playthrough. Trying to keep an eye on the cat mayhem here so they don't, like, yank my monitor cords out or something. Have you been doing, Demon Wolves? If, say, the judge tried to fire one, it'd break every bone in his body. A slight exaggeration, perhaps. I mean, if you wanted to exaggerate a little, it could, you know, tear his arm off or something like that. But every bone in his body feels unlikely. Otherwise, I can't see this sort of revolver ever being used, period. If it creates some sort of shockwave all around it that can pass through the entire body with that sort of force, you wouldn't even need to fire it on them. Hey there, Yamato. The defense will take more care in choosing examples. As I was saying, the victim was shot backstage in the dressing room. A dressing room. The dressing room has only one entrance, this door. They're definitely going for a closed room murder. Or locked room murder. Where it is unclear how the killer could have entered from any other point. Sometimes this is done as they couldn't enter from anywhere else, and that door was locked. So how could it have been anybody other than one of the people in the room, kind of thing? It does seem to be the case, yes. However, there were witnesses who heard the gunshots. He's talking about you and Emma, huh? Yet when the witnesses entered the room, it was empty, save for the victim's body, of course. But that's impossible! Exactly. This murder was impossible. That is a stance for the prosecution to take. Clearly, Your Honor, the murderer was a sorcerer. And clearly, the defendant is such a sorcerer. How can we tell? Because he weighs less than a duck. References. For all but one person. One person. That is, of course, the defendant, Maki Tobai. Only this defendant could have committed the crime. I think they're going to say only Maki could have fit through the vent that was in the room. But how? It's quite simple. The circumstances of the crime scene make it clear. And while I can't imagine it would shatter every bone in his body to fire that revolver, Maki is small enough that I feel like it would have drilled him into the floor after flying backwards a little bit. I don't think there's any amount of bracing that he would do without, like, some sort of reinforcement structure to fire that thing. I assume you have testimony to back up this claim. Please show the witness to the stand. Well, given your screen handle, I expect that you're quoting something from Has Been Hotel. Perhaps one of the musical numbers. Your name and profession, please. Emma Sky. I'm a detective for the police department. Was on security detail at the concert forum that night. Emma seems tired somehow. Security at the concert, you say? Some security I was couldn't even stop a murder. Out. Now don't blame yourself. Things like this happen. It's expected at a concert that there will be 1 or 2 murders. It's just how things are. Mosh pits get really dangerous. Does it, Okan? Oh, missed a line. Sure, that makes her feel much better. I want to hear about these bigger mistakes. In any case, because you were on security detail, the crime was quickly discovered. And we were able to identify the killer. You may give the court your testimony, if you would. Describe the circumstances of that day and your discovery of the crime, please. All right. She doesn't want to be a detective. She wants to be a forensic investigator. So she tends to be a little pouty about having to do detective work. Feel like they would at least be a little adjacent, you know? Murderous circumstances. The night of the murder, I was on security backstage at Prosecutor Gavin's request. Only people involved with the concert in some way were allowed backstage. At the beginning of the 3rd set, I heard shots. I went into the room, filled with blaring rock music, and found the body. I examined the scene and determined that only the defendant could have done it. I think family. Yeah, that cat is having a nice little nap. Let's see how many others we can see right now. Sammy is on my lap. That's another one, and then I think we can. Yeah, there's 3 over on the second tree. All 3 of them are looking out the window. I see that Okaneki has changed their name to be somewhat phonetic. Let's switch it over to tree 2 here. It's lucky that a detective was the first on the scene. But that door was the only way out of the room, right? Pretty much. Then I don't get it. How can they say that Maki did it? Like, we need a bit more information. Very well, the defense may begin the cross-examination. But hello, folks. Hello, and welcome to the stream. If you're not familiar, this is an Ace Attorney game. It's a relatively classic and had been a long-running series. There have been a couple of recent entries. But we are playing through one of the remastered original sets. If you've ever seen the objection or hold it memes, this is the series that it comes from. The night of the murder was the night of the concert, yes? That's right. What was a detective doing on security detail, might I ask? If it was only a concert. I mean, it sounded like rockstar prosecutor Gavin was perhaps abusing his power over the police force in order to get detectives and whatnot assigned as security. I don't know, maybe. Could be, perhaps. My thoughts exactly. But orders are orders, even when they come from rock gods. Prosecutor Gavin? I smelled something that day, you might say. The stench of conspiracy. That's kind of melodramatic for the rest of his behavior. That day at the concert hall. Conspiracy? Well, isn't it obvious? My keys, that whole morning, no, the whole day was ruined. His key ring would prevent, the loss of that prevented him from getting into, oh, the cats have moved. He couldn't get his motorcycle started, he couldn't get his guitar case open, and this key ring was found in the hands of the victim. And it's all because someone stole my keys. I couldn't ride my hog to the show. I couldn't open my guitar case. There he goes again. Isn't it possible he simply misplaced them? Misplaced them? Misplaced items don't just wander into a murder victim's hands on their own. What's this? Prosecutor Gavin, if your keys were in the victim's hands, that makes you a prime suspect. Love, slow acting, and new. Oh. Atroquinine is waiting for you. I don't recognize. He's singing something. Does everything with this guy have to be so over the top? If I recall, when they introduced him as a prosecutor, they kind of established that that music exists in the courtroom, which implies that while he's air guitaring, he is playing like a recording or something like that. Maybe there's an assistant under the desk being prompted, you know? It's kind of like Prosecutor Godot and his constant stream of coffee. Off camera, in some way, there is an assistant who is very busy during the case. The killing happened in the middle of my concert. I was, like a sailor, adrift on a sea of sound. Huh. I was not aware, Okaneki. That is pretty common in the Ace Attorney games, is to have reference names and sometimes, like, play on words or pun names. Hey there, Eternity? Less heresy in this game and more questionable legal practices. Anyway, I didn't want anything else stolen, so I put the detective with the most time on their hands on the task. I see, I can accept that. Are you implying some sort of My Little Pony 40K crossover, Eternity? Please, the testimony. The people involved with the concert in some way are allowed backstage. Like a guest. We were let in, though. I didn't know about that. I certainly didn't invite you. I gave the Fraulein special permission to be there. I wanted to see her again. The assistant, Trucy. Wait, did you hear that? We're officially involved now. Gee, great. Some other hangers-on tried to get backstage, but I drove them off. So no other outsiders were there then. And then... I believe we were having a chat when we heard the shots. You were the one chatting. I was eating snackoos. You can see she has produced her infinite bag of snacks again. apparently, somebody looked it up, and those are apparently like a chocolate-covered sort of thing, but I still contend they look like a jerky sausage or something like that in that picture. In the bag, they seem to be like chocolate-covered crescent things. That's right, that's right, a meat stick. A tube of processed meats. Hey, no snacking in court. And you're sure the shots came from Lammeror's room? Ah, that name is brutal. I've actually encountered jerkies like that, where it's in like dried sausage form. Yeah, Okaneki mentioned that it's close to like French for keyboard too. It is interesting. It also lines up with some of the kind of off-English words he uses. That is an interesting thing for a cat to remind you of. Absolutely. Hey, I'm the one being cross-examined here. Here, this'll keep you quiet. When she does this, she apparently is throwing the snack at him. Yep. Ka-donk. Thanks, so, Munch, how about it, Munch, Emma? Right there, hard to be mistaken about that. Please, either talk or eat, not both at the same time. Are you playing Helldivers Eternity? Is this managed democracy? Right, so after that, me and Mr. Lawyer there opened the dressing room door. Hey there, fairy. I wonder, would that be like pork rind adjacent? A meat-filled Cheeto? Rock? Blaring, yes. When you say rock, are you referring perhaps to this rock and roll music that's so popular these days? That's right. When we went into the dressing room, music was blaring over the speaker on the wall. Apparently the speaker is playing is relaying the music from the concert so that anybody in the dressing rooms can potentially hear a cue to move towards the stage. They pipe sound from the stage into the backstage through these speakers. That way people in the back can hear when they're supposed to be on stage. Hey there, Conduct. I saw a comment of yours implying that you had changed your handle, but by the time I had read it, your handle was changed, so it seemed like your comment was just reapplying your name. So if there's another name that I might recognize you by, you can let me know. Did it have to be so loud? You don't listen to the Gavineers with your ears. You feel it with your entire body and soul. The music is played less in a auditory fashion and more in a physically destructive fashion. You can hear the rhythm through the deep tissue damage, the melody through ruptured eardrums. Always have the backstage monitors at full volume. When we walked into the room, the band was playing Guilty Love, I believe. All of the whole band and all of their music is law enforcement themed. They all seem to be like detectives and prosecutors and the like, making it easy to determine the time of the crime. If you could hear that music playing, then everyone on stage for that song has an alibi, including myself. Anyway, I closed off the scene and started my investigation. I think that's going to probably show up. That's my guess, is that we will have... the music that was getting piped in was not actually from the stage. It was something else. How could you know something like that? As I said, it was clear from the circumstances. Listen, we know that there was only one exit from the room, that door. The small window only opened a tiny crack. And I was standing in front of that door. So how could the killer have fled the scene? There's only one possibility. The air vent. Ah. But that air vent was too small. Who could possibly? Exactly. There's certainly no way you could get through, nor you could get through, nor me. The only one who could fit through was a child. A child? Remember, access to those rooms was limited. Only those involved with the concert were allowed. And of all the people involved in the concert, only one is small enough to be considered a child. There was no access through hallways or places that she could fit and see. If the killer was crawling in the air ducts, they just had to be small and present at the concert. Correct, Tess. 0 singing. There would be no singing at all. The defendant? The pixie of the arpeggio flitted up toward the sky and disappeared from the scene of the crime. But that's just conjecture. Oh, there was no other way out of that room. Here we're seeing the standard Phoenix Wright and Ace Attorney game kind of things, where the prosecutor is allowed to make wild conjecture. The judge will take it at face value and consider it to be true, unless you can not only refute it, but provide a even better alternative. Like, their speculation has to be completely proved impossible. And then often you have to find out exactly what happened instead. It's both a game mechanic and it adds cheesy drama. You were there. You should know, Hair Forehead. And there is another vital piece of evidence. Evidence? What? Marks were found on the air vent grill. Traces that it had recently been opened. That's right. The prosecution can both threaten the judge, attack the judge, and sometimes, like, blackmail the judge or force them to behave. I think one of the last trials in the Ace Attorney trilogy, the original one, had like a high-ranking member of the police that had power over the proceedings, so they could just manipulate it, even though they ended up being the defendant. Well, the kind of counter-accused. Wait, what? Something else was found, quite clearly. The defendant, Maki Tobai's fingerprints. There are 2 live streams conduct. On YouTube, I have a wide form and a tall form stream going. So watch from whichever one is more useful for your for the form factor that you're using. Gabble, gabble, gabble. Wall punch. The air vent was the only way out of the room. The defendant's fingerprints were found on the grill. Well, Hair Forehead, what fairy tale does this suggest to you? Only one could pass through that vent, that doorway to heaven. And that one is our pixie. Are you looking at me, Apollo? Hey, I was out whooping it up in the audience. This was his decisive evidence. Quite decisive indeed. Yeah, here we go. Hey there, Uni. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the stream. Gavel. It is a, I don't know, useful property, I guess, quote. Prosecution has a rather convincing case. The prosecution has conjecture. They just know Maki touched the air vent. That's it. And they think the air vent had to be the way that they came in because they can't find another way. That's it. The only way in and out of the crime scene was watched, making the defendant the only one who could possibly leave the scene, as opposed to anyone else that could fit in a vent. Simple and decisive. I believe we've heard enough to determine our verdict. Even if I wasn't in a hurry to make a hospital visit, yeah. This was said at the beginning. The judge was in a hurry to visit an acquaintance's child in the hospital. So he wanted the case over quick. Which isn't a conflict of interest at all. Not at all. I'm sure the Chief Justice will appreciate the gesture. Unfortunately, we have no direct witnesses. Fortunately, the criminal left decisive evidence for us. That will have to be enough. Can't be over already? Very well, I believe this trial is finished. The defense has no contradicting evidence? The prosecution has presented our proof, clear and plain. If you have contradicting evidence, it had better be clear and plain. Apollo, they've got us on the ropes already. We better come up with something quick. I know. Think, what can get us out of this? We need evidence or a witness that can prove Maki is innocent beyond a doubt. Without that, Mr. Justice, do you have contradicting proof that can overturn the prosecution's case? If you do, you'd better tell us about it now. We will now demonstrate, once again, the classic Ace Attorney game mechanic of saving it before any major decision. Because it is really a pain to have to start a whole trial sequence over again. This is it, and so soon. If I mess this one up, it's all over. Court wants contradicting proof? What do we got? It says we can't talk about the case. It's her postcard. The giant gun. Easy lyrics. We don't have a witness. The only other one that was present was Emma. Okay, I'm gonna guess it's this, because if Maki came in through the vent, that'd put him here. All this destruction is over on this side, but it would imply that he came in through the vent, went over here, directly engaged with somebody who is really big compared to him, fired 2 shots, one of which missed, into the guy's shoulder, who is again taller than him, which would imply, to get that angle, that he was further away than right over here. So I think it's this. Let's find out. This is prepared to show contradicting evidence. This should be interesting. What sort of evidence? This evidence does more than contradict. It flips the whole case on its head. Thank you for presenting evidence that is both clear and plain as requested. Yeah, clearly and plainly wrong. Now, normally, silence like this indicates you got it right. This kind of thing is obnoxious because you have to read through the whole event to find out that you got it wrong. It's not until you get a penalty that you know that you were wrong. For certain. That's usually not how it goes. I load the wrong save here. Just make doubly sure. Yeah, okay. I loaded the auto save, which was 2 minutes prior. Can I save it right here? There we go. Can we call Maki? Prosecutor Gavin, you claim there were no witnesses to this crime. Are you absolutely sure? Absolutely. I'd swear it on my career as a prosecutor. And on my million-seller hit song. Looks like atroquinine. There he goes again. That's too bad, because there was a witness. Really now? But how did you come to possess knowledge the prosecution clearly does not? So I am the only one in the world who knows this. Oh. Okay. Well, thanks, Parwin. I appreciate it. And welcome to the stream. Welcome. So when Apollo went in there and was watching the scene while Emma ran to get help, the guy was still alive and told him to talk to the siren or something like that, which implies who's it? The singer. I can't recall her full name at the moment. Lamarore. I say Lamarore. That's slightly less painful than Royer. But we'll try. We'll try to keep continuing. I don't know. I'll forget. I just talked to him, and now... Yep. He's alive. Mr. Latouche, can you hear me? So cold. Witness. Cold? Don't worry. You're going to be fine. Help is on the way. Can't see. Jose, this is the murder victim in this trial. We are trying to determine who killed him, and ideally that it is not our client. Who was the witness? The witness is... He says siren, or at least that's what we think he said. What? The victim said this before he died. Perhaps he did, and perhaps he did not. What do you mean by that? All we know is that Hair Forehead says he did. Yeah, just like you say that the only one that could have been it is the defendant. But we don't get to make conjecture. It's no testimony, especially since it comes from the defense attorney himself. But it's the truth. He said it. I even told you about it. But apparently you ignored me completely. It's my policy to fully investigate everything I deem relevant. Clearly this rookie lawyer thinks he can tell me how to do my job. This is the Apollo Justice Ace Attorney trilogy. Is interactive fiction, kind of a more hands-on visual novel kind of series. That's enough. Mr. Justice, we need clear contradictory proof from you. This witness of yours is unknown to the prosecution. I hope you're right. Failure carries a stiff penalty. Perhaps a stiffer penalty than usual is called for? Okay, so we made progress. This is the siren of the ballad. Lamarore? Recall Mr. Latouche's last words. Is my audio cutting out? If it is, I can try to repair it. And we might have an individual stream issue. Hopefully it persists. Oh. Hopefully the quality persists and that your problem goes away. The siren. Ah, he meant the siren. That's right, the siren of the ballad. Lamarore was only on stage for the second set. And she had access to the backstage area. She could have been a witness. I see. Well, Prosecutor Gavin? My claim still stands. There was no witness to this crime. We shall interview nobody else who was in the area at all. Very well. Let's hear it from the horse's mouth then, shall we? We'll now take a break from Detective Emma Sky's cross-examination. Please show Lamarore to the witness stand. Lamarore would say nothing the night of the murder. Not today, though. Today we'll drag that story out of her, no matter what. Indeed, Sherbet and Mason are taking a nap. They are cozy. And see that Ember is napping as well. I expect Sky might be in his tree, if not looking out the window. I'm not sure where Sammy is hiding. Actually, no, I am sure where Sammy is hiding. If you look to the right of the camera, like the rightmost edge, you can see an even darker spot than the existing blanket there. That is Sammy. She is laying on the other corner of the bed. I presume. I guess it could be Sky because it is just a darker spot. For those in the wide format, we're going to zoom in. I don't have a clear picture. In fact, I've only got shadow, like the very edge of a cat, I think. Might even just be a shadow in general. Anywho. It's my distinct honor to welcome the Siren of the Ballad to our courtroom. You are too kind. You can speak English? Yes, I can. So, part of the plan of the nation that she came from to further, add mystique to her was to claim that she could only speak their language. And Latouche was to act as her interpreter. She did not actually need him to be an interpreter. Now, the defendant, Maki, can't speak English. Well, that is what is claimed as well. And we have never encountered him speaking English. Though I am not very good, there is much I do not know. You speak so well. Have you spent time here before? Actually, I do not know how I came by my knowledge of your language, nor where I studied it. Does she mean she doesn't know? I too thought to call her as a witness, but I did not. I had a reason, of course. And what's that? Lammeror suffers from amnesia. Amnesia? Lammeror is not my true name. I mean, are we talking short-term memory loss or something like that? Usually when amnesia is deployed in fiction, it is past events, not random current events as well. Remember nothing of the time before I was given it. Nothing of the time before I started singing on stage. She's even more mysterious than I thought. As lauded singer Lammeror, she lives a good life. There are little difficulties for her thanks to her success. Yet, I did not wish to subject her to unnecessary stress. I see. I care surprisingly little about people's pasts. You have nothing to fear in this court, Lammeror. Thank you. Yet there is something I do not understand, and being called as a witness? What might I say? No one will tell me anything of what happened. Lammeror, let me be frank. I did not want to ask you up here to testify, yet that young gentleman with the wide forehead over there was adamant that you stand. Oh my. Congratulations, Apollo, you're the bad guy. Well, now that you're here, please give us your testimony. If nothing else, the sound of your voice is welcome. Tell us what you saw the night of the crime. Yawn. Sorry. Take this opportunity to drink some beverage. As for what I saw nothing. That night, I was invited to sing on stage, and this I did. I did not return backstage after the second set. Then I was led by the police to Mr. Gavin's dressing room and told to wait there. It was where I learned that something had happened, but I wasn't told the details. I must say, you sound wonderful just testifying. I hope he was too distracted to hear what she was actually saying. There you have it. She saw nothing that night. Now we can only pray that the defense has the sense to admit defeat and refrain from detaining her here longer than need be. Oh, you just got badder, Apollo. Way to go. Very well, Mr. Justice. Keep it short and sweet. Lammeror wouldn't talk to me the night of the crime. She must know something, and I've got to find out what. But you must have seen something. Mr. Latouche named you. Mr. Latouche? How can I tell you what I don't know? Lammeror, you said you were a witness. He said you were a witness with his dying words. I don't know what he meant to say, but that night... It was a great concert. You heard me sing? Thank you. I was hoping to get an autograph later, actually. Of course. Mr. Justice, this is cross-examination. You're out of line. If anyone deserves an autograph here, it's me. One on my gavel would be nice. Herr Judge. What's this? It's my autograph. Now keep this trial moving. What? My grandchild will be so happy. I like that. That, if I recall, that's something that we see in I've seen that in presentations of, like, in Japan getting autographs, is it will be like a square card or something that it's given on. Never like random slip of paper kind of stuff. Always the formal square card when it is sought. Apparently his grandson is a big fan. Let us continue, shall we? If you would, Lammeror. Tell us what you did after your stellar performance. You did not return backstage once? Where were you then? What were you doing? I was cleaning up on stage. There are many things I must do for a performance other than simply sing. Was Maki with you at the time? Fortunately, I do not know where he was. So much for an alibi for Maki. So, her brooch is definitely going to come into play, but I don't know how we can establish that she was wearing it that night. Maki, correct? How was he then? He seemed as he always does, so I believe he was shocked by the news of Mr. Latouche's death. Yet he is not the type to show much emotion. Yes, he's given the police no end of headaches. He answers most questions with silence, and those glinting frames speak nothing. The questioning hasn't gotten very far. We sat there waiting. How was the incident explained to you? I was told nothing in detail, only that Mr. Latouche died. Of course, investigations require some security. But Mr. Latouche was my manager. I wanted to know more. I should have been told. Both Maki and I were beside ourselves with concern. Allow me to apologize, but please understand. Keeping you in the dark was as painful for me as it was for you. Probably not. Probably not. Buttons. Yes, I understand. Think, what doesn't ring true about her testimony? Hard to imagine Lammeror lying. Might not be lying, but hiding something. What wouldn't she tell me the night of the murder? We're gonna... I think we can present the brooch here. So normally that music stop means we guessed right. Sorry, Lammeror, but I'm having trouble believing you. You remember this brooch, do you not? Why, that's Lammeror's. She was wearing it for her song. There we go. He gave us confirmation. Care to add that to the testimony, Prosecutor Gavin? What? This brooch was found after the murder took place. At the very scene of the crime. What? Lammeror, how did your brooch get backstage if you did not go there yourself? And, as Prosecutor Gavin has just told us, you had been wearing it during your performance that night. Her little shock expression of her veil kicking up over her face, like full extension over her eyes. What is the meaning of this? Lammeror, please explain. Lammeror? Her native language. She says English is quite difficult. That trick's not going to work here. Mwah, 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 mwah. Your forehead may be large, but you are a lawyer, truly. But you have missed one important fact. What now? In fact, at the time of the incident, I went backstage, but only for a moment. Huh? Still puts her at the scene of the crime. Think back to the moment of the crime. You know whereof I speak. Is she really saying all that? Is she talking about Apollo? Right when the incident occurred. So, her statement is that she was only there briefly. That's when she lost the brooch. But it couldn't have been at the time of the killing because there was no way out of the room that wouldn't have taken her past them. Talking about that? I have to call it for backup. Right, understood. You want me to make sure no one comes in, right? It's a repeat of them showing us the death and his last message. So we heard a noise during that. Interestingly, if he was distracted looking at Latouche, if she was hiding somewhere in the room when they came in, that would have been an opportunity for her to flee. For the killer to flee, ultimately. Who's there? Yeah, that was the sound of the door. So we hear the sound of a door, and then we hear the sound of the door again when Emma comes in. What's wrong, Emma? Did you see anyone just now? Huh? No. Sworn I heard a door close. I looked into the room. Just a glance, mind you. This is when your brooch dropped. That explains that. But she just asserted that she had just found out, so she looked into the room, didn't see anything, and booked it. Despite the fact that the room would have visibly been in disarray, and from the door she could see part of the corpse and Apollo standing there probably back turned. She's like, nope, this is normal. Off I go. It does. There was no other time I could have dropped it. That's ridiculous. You only looked for an instant, but you dropped your brooch? Her forehead. She has raised a possibility. The only thing that can counter that is evidence. So she looked at the crime scene. Actually, I intended to go into the dressing room. I knew nothing of what had happened, of course. But the moment I opened the door, I heard a horrible voice. Her forehead shouting, "Who's there?" no doubt. A horrible voice indeed. You're stupid and your voice is stupid. I closed the door immediately. Oh, that explains the brooch. Return to your testimony. It's too convenient. She's hiding something. Lammeror, you did look into the room, though, right? Yes. Testify as to what you saw. Very well, though it was only the briefest of glimpses. Okay, so we have a visual tell that's going to happen at some point. We're going to update our save so that I don't forget. My performance was finished. I went backstage for just a moment. Let's see. Okay. What did you see in that brief glimpse? So something about her animation will differ slightly when she is withholding something or lying. Only opened the door slightly when I heard that horrible voice and shut the door. I've always wondered, Hair Forehead, is that voice of yours lack a volume knob? It's my cords of steel, man. Just back off. He practices shouting in the mirror in the morning. Like, that's what he says he does. A wall? Was there a wall there? Okay, no. From here, it is reasonable that she could have missed the button. Or at least not unreasonable. Is that in English? A division or partition, I believe. It's a large dressing room divided into two halves. And the murder took place in the inside half. Guess that partition might have hidden the body. With Maki, correct? How was he then? Okay, this is the repeat one. So she has added a couple of the prior steps there. Okay, I think I'm going to put the save down again. Yeah. Okay. It's she swallows when she says Latouche was behind the partition. See?
Gotcha!
The late Mr. Latouche's body, you say? Yes? You know something more about Mr. Latouche's death than you're saying. What? I don't know why it's the bracelet, but effectively he has a magic bracelet that seems to enhance his senses so he can see when they've got, like, a nervous tick. I could see you're trying not to remember, but the effort made you swallow. Can't fool my eyes. It is true. It was so terrible, after all. Why did Mr. Latouche have to be shot? One moment, Lammeror. Yes? Was that you just said? Why did Mr. Latouche have to be shot? Yes? He was hiding something, I knew it. Lammeror, I'm afraid you haven't realized it, but your words just now contradict your testimony. Huh? How could that be? Take this.
Take that!
No. Can we reload that? Hey there, Gloomy. Stream indeed. Oh, man. Well, we know precisely where it was.
Gotcha!
So we're going to zip ahead. Getting back to where we were here. Why did he have to be shot? Put down our save here at the moment. The Ace Attorney games, and frankly, some Capcom games in general, have really bad controls when they're ported over to PC. So things like some things are left click, some things are like a wide variety of buttons, some things you have to, press Z or something like that. It's kind of inconsistent scene to scene, like screen to screen. Oh. Maybe. Yeah. Information is restricted. Tell me, how did you know he'd been shot? Yeah, because they emphasized that they didn't tell her anything despite her pressing them for information. Immediately following the incident, a gag order was placed on the scene. This is the document proving that. So if she couldn't see the body and the gag order was in place, and Gavin asserts that or agrees she wasn't told anything, then she couldn't have known he was shot. In your testimony, you told the court, no one told me anything about the incident. Ah. Furthermore, you testified that you had seen nothing. Yet you knew that Mr. Latouche had been shot. How could you have known? Wow. Ye orc. Lamaror, you aren't hiding something from this court, I hope. She only perjured herself a little, just a weensy bit. That's nothing compared to some other witnesses. Sweet song of hers was sounding a little too sweet. How I remember. Please allow me to add to my testimony. Of course. All we want to know is the truth. She looks kind of pale, huh? She saw something. I know it. Even the victim said so. Saw bullet holes in the wall. I knew he had been shot.
Hold it!
Only a glimpse, yet you know that there were bullet holes? Yes, I recognized them immediately. Seen bullet holes before, you know. She couldn't have, because when the door opens, it opens to the right, and I think it would block it. So if we look... Yeah. If she peeked in, if she had opened the door all the way, it would have blocked most of her line. Unless she opened the door all the way and then looked up, I believe. You have traveled the world as a singer. You must have sung in places far more dangerous than our country. I go wherever my voice is needed. Those places are many these days now. It's really cool. I hope I get to travel like Lamaror someday. I plan on recording my next album overseas. Their studios have a different sound, you know. Maybe I should go on the Chords of Steel tour. He calls his vocal cords Chords of Steel, and he has a catchphrase that he says in his head. He's kind of a goober. We're going to save here, and we're going to present the crime scene photo here. Or I get that saved down properly. Yes.
Objection!
Lamaror, they call you the siren of the ballad, but lies are hardly becoming of such a creature. I mean, it's not explicitly a lie, but deception is kind of a thing. The whole sing beautiful songs to lure sailors to their death is, I feel like that's at least lie adjacent. In the general vicinity of untruth. A put down worthy of our prosecutor, Mr. A put down worthy of our prosecutor, Mr. Justice. Such put downs are hardly becoming of you, Apollo. Stop polishing your forehead and start polishing your character, yeah? Come on, can't I be cool for once? Observe the diagram. You looked in from the door for just a moment, correct? Yes, that's so. There were bullet holes in the room, yes. But they were in the wall the door is on. Huh? You see, assuming you merely glanced into the room, you couldn't have seen those bullet holes. Lamaror. Yes? I'm afraid the defense has raised a good point. It appears you have been holding back something. And I must tell you what it is that I saw? Yes. The happenings in this trial are being recorded, and I'm certain it will be on the news in Borginia, the totally real country she's from. You understand your reputation is at stake. It falls to you to avoid tarnishing it. Personally speaking, I still believe that cross-examining her will yield us absolutely nothing. But she knew how Mr. Latouche died, and he named her as a witness. You must have seen something, Lammeror. Very well. Lammeror, please continue your testimony. Very well, I shall. So on my way from the stage to the backstage exit, there was something like a little window there. That's how I saw it. There were 2 shots. I couldn't do anything to stop it. But it wasn't Maki. It was a grown person. I know it was. So her hesitance to tell us about this part doesn't make sense if now she's defending the defendant. Like, her prior statements would make it so that the defendant would be guilty because they led to nothing. But her new statement defends Maki by saying she saw that it wasn't him. It was somebody too big for that, which it's as Apollo has declared that she was a witness and she now confirms she was, that blows a gaping hole in the not evidence that the prosecution has. That will not be the case. So you did witness the crime, and the killer was a grown person, you say? This is my first time hearing this, I assure you. Nice play, Hair Forehead. Very well, Mr. Justice, you may begin your cross-examination. Yep. It's the prior tactic didn't work. So now she's potentially either throwing guilt on somebody else to dodge herself, which is potentially plausible, but let's see how more of it unfolds. The extra wrinkle to this is the fact that after they were supposedly escorted to Gavin's room, Maki goes missing and the body goes missing. The body and Maki are then found at the top of some scaffolding. So yeah. Get going, Apollo. You were right about Lammeror. What's wrong? You don't look too happy. This whole thing smells fishy. That's what's wrong.
Hold it!
So you were heading toward the dressing room? Yes. Well, this is a little before she opened the dressing room door and dropped her brooch. So, the dressing room hallway is a straight line with the rooms directly adjacent to each other. The implication of this is that it's a horseshoe that starts on one side but isn't accessible from the other. Kind of like a hook shape, you know? Because she had to be walking by the window on the opposite side of the room and then loop around all the way to that door instead of there being a straight shot available. Maybe she guessed the wrong door and got in the wrong hallway and had to wait until another exit was available. I don't know. So this is a little before she opened the dressing room door and dropped her brooch. About the same time Emma and I heard those shots. I was on my way back. Well, I mean, it's plausible. If this is how it goes, it makes her actions to run around and look in the door plausible. Just the path that she's taking seems fishy. What exactly is something like a little window? Yes, well, window is the best word I know in English. I think this is how it's said, yes. You need not worry, Lamarar. Your choice of words is impeccable. There's a small window in the dressing room in question, for reasons. Perhaps the defense remembers this detail? Like, it's a weird little window. I saw the crime from there. You are certain you heard 2 shots fired? Yes, quite certain. It's on my way to the backstage exit. So maybe the path, maybe she's heading out of backstage? Maybe that's the hook route? I don't know. Weird. When I heard a faint sound like a gunshot, wondering what it had been, I peered through the window. That is when I heard the second gunshot, much closer. 2 bullet holes at the scene. No contradictions so far. It all happened on the other side of that window. There was nothing I could do. Wasn't Maki who shot? Are you sure? Yes, quite certain. It amuses me that you would question her testimony. It is testimony in your favor. Isn't it my job to object? Yeah, Paulo, what were you thinking? See, let's just listen to what Lamarar has to say. Can you tell me how you're so sure? A grown person. That's a little vague. I'm sorry, my skill with your language is lacking, I know. Certainly you could at least see whether the shooter was male or female. It was a man, a young man. And you're sure of that? Yes, his voice was quite clear. Voice? Looking at this diagram, it seems the dressing room was quite cluttered. It does seem likely that you wouldn't have had a clear view of the shooter. As a singer, I rely more on my ears than my eyes. When I hear a voice, I don't forget it. That voice was the voice of a man. So you heard a voice, but wait. Couldn't that have been the victim, Mr. Latouche? Absolutely not. Did I not just say that I do not forget a voice? If it was Mr. Latouche who spoke, I would have known. Indeed. So you were at the windows and you heard the shooter's voice, the voice of a young man. Hollow, this is good testimony. That proves it wasn't Maki. Indeed, if this turns out to be true, it would cast this case in a considerably different light. Oh. Oh, pains. It's the Ace Attorney games are prone to giving you what I refer to as a "do you want the game to continue" question. They are questions where it is really just an A or B question, and the wrong choice just ends the case. It's you're found guilty, you got the wrong killer, something goes wrong, but it's a game over, and you have to go back to your last save. Which I don't like it when games do that, where it's, do you want to lose or would you like the game to continue? It's like, yes, just let's continue the game, please. Pains me to say this, there's something about Lammeror's testimony that rings false. Bravo, Hair Forehead. You're colder than I thought. You sure you remember what the problem is as well as I do? As it has been established, no grown man could pass through that air vent. He couldn't have fled the scene of the crime. But that means Lammeror has to be lying. I know, and I know it's bad for our case, but I can't shut my eyes to this. Believe me, the idea was tempting. It is as Hair Forehead says, yet this is not the only contradiction within her testimony. What next? What's he talking about? Lammeror, I understand why you would want to protect Maki, yet remember you are the siren of the ballad, and lies do not become such a creature. What does the prosecution mean? What's he talking about? How come no one bats an eye when he says stuff like that? When he says stuff like that. That same line was criticized by everyone when Apollo said it. I recall the state of the crime scene quite well. Yes, and when the murder took place, that window was closed. I find it hard to believe you could hear a voice through it. That's assert it what you want. She says she did. But I'm sure... Lammeror, I have nothing but the highest regard for your musical sense, but my opinion of you as a witness is somewhat lesser. But she's the only eyewitness we have. So you say, and the victim named her the Siren as the witness. That's right. That's what Mr. Latouche. We heard your claim. We even entertained the possibility, and it brought us to this. I mean... Mayor Judge, the prosecution requests that the witness be excused. Please. Afraid I must honor the prosecution's request. There is indeed a question of the witness's credibility. I mean... Oh, this is one of the wonkiest things they've done. It's, after being inaccurate, like, to having her story change once. That is not uncommon. The witnesses will change their story, like, entirely, at least once. And now, because he asserts, no, she couldn't have heard, because I think so. Now she is considered less credible. Exactly, Taz, exactly. Oh, now you excuse the witness for credibility problems, when normally we have to go through, like, 2 days of testimony in a very dramatic confrontation. And even then, they aren't excused for the testimony being inaccurate. It's just that their testimony is ignored going forward. Very rarely do they imply that they're going to get in trouble for what they did or that their statements should be stricken. But if Lammeror can't testify, then we don't have a chance of proving Maki's innocence. So now we're back to conjecture with no proof. Cross-examination is over. Prosecutor Gavin, you may continue making your case. Now, where were we? Ah, yes. I would like to hear from Fraulein Detective again. Let me hear Lammeror's testimony one last time. But the cross-examination is already over. Until such a time as a need arises, this witness may leave the stand. Sorry I could not be of more assistance. Back to the real trial. Ready, Hair Forehead? Yeah. This is... It's not Danganronpa level, discussion BS, but... Or, mystery BS, but they have really pulled a move there. Like, completely out of character for the series. Hope I didn't miss my only chance. Fraulein Detective, how far had we gotten until we were so rudely interrupted? Don't ask me. I dislike saying the same thing twice, and I never repeat a song for an encore. If you would, Miss Sky. I believe I was saying that the only way Mr. Latusse's killer could have escaped was through the air vent on the ceiling. There was only one door in the room, and a witness you was standing in front of it. I mean, hey, is it Groovy? Yes. A few years ago now. We went from just the cat cam to eventually a PNG and then to VTubing. Well, full VTubing. In a fashion as people would recognize it. The air vent isn't very big, see? Kind of limits the people who could possibly get through. But in any event, welcome to the broadcast. Glad to have you back based on what you have said, and I hope you have a good time. I certainly would have a difficult time. You sure would. Not that you would have been there in the first place, though. Remember, the whole backstage area was off limits to people not involved with the concert. That would do it. The only one who meets the conditions for our killer is the defendant. A virtuoso performance. I couldn't have put it better myself. She does state a clear case, though reading the report, something caught my eye. What's that? The circumstances of the defendant's arrest. The circumstances? That's right, Apollo. Remember when we found Maki? That was bizarre. The kitty roster is noticeably different as well, Grubby. Let's switch over to that before we get into that that little bit of the mystery there. Let's see. We can see 4 of them clearly. I don't see Sherbet hiding anywhere. Actually, no, I don't see Mason. Sherbet is on the bed with Sammy. And we have Sky in the tree. We have Ember napping across from my keyboard. And then Sherbet and Sammy on the bed. That's right. I have a 8-camera array set up around the place to keep track of the kitties. She's right. Why did Mr. Latusse's body disappear from the room and end up on top of that stage tower with a guitar in his hands? Holding a guitar, no less. I like how that whole element has been ignored up until now. Like, some mystery actor, somebody that we don't know, who got into a secured area. Like, they had cordoned off everything and were keeping track of everybody in the location. Some unknown actor accosted Maki, knocked him out, grabbed him and the body in some sequence likely, put them on top of the stage during a time when police or police adjacent people could have seen them doing this, and now we're coming to mention it. Now this is relevant. Receptive observation, Herr Judge. Thanks. It was kind of an accident, really. But you work in this job long enough, you get a nose for things. The judge sure seems pleased with himself. Very good, Fraulein Detective. Perhaps you can tie it all together for us? Why was the body moved? And how does that lead us to the killer? Wildly relevant testimony. I believe Maki stole the body because of some lyrics. Hey there, London. Into Okaneki. Welcome back. Yeah, every now and then, Javier puts more German in his words. We're having like, this is a critical moment music going on here. It is a very narrative-heavy game, so I would be pleased by no spoilers, but otherwise, feel free to ask questions and talk and whatnot. It's me reading, so I have plenty of time to read chat. Assuming it doesn't go bonkers over there. I believe Maki stole the body because of some lyrics. He moved the body to match Lammeror's song. No one in this country had a motive to kill the victim. And Maki practically left his signature at the scene. All of this evidence clearly points to the defendant. They presented that they had no concrete evidence at the beginning, just speculation that, well, they had to come in through the vent, and because the vent exit is in a room that nobody was allowed into, then clearly only the defendant was small enough, so only the defendant could have killed him. But now they apparently have other evidence. Lammeror's song? Yes, the guitar's serenade. You notice it's code, too, did you not? It's code. All the events that day followed the lyrics to our song. That's right, so his keys to his guitar and motorcycle were stolen. And prosecutors Gavin's guitar burst into flames on stage. Yeah, so guitar up together in the sky. Yeah. Rest hardly needs explanation. So, moving the bodies up there matched the song further, but he didn't write the song. Gavin and Lammeror did. Rest hardly needs explanation. There will be no singing. And I prefer to avoid reciting his really terrible poetry. It's mad. It's like a story out of some fairy tale. I'll admit, I'd forgotten about the song, but there it is now, waiting for me, the grand finale, as it were. Hey, you know I was the one who first noticed that. Heard of jumping rope to songs and counting to songs, but killing? It's a natural progression. You know, you jump rope, you play hopscotch or something like that. You shoot a man. It's that learning experience, you know. You build up skills. It's a wild world out there, your judge. Very well. We've heard one song and dance. Let's get to the next. The cross-examination. I'm not so sure I'm going to be doing much singing. That is correct. There will be no singing. How did he steal the body? Would steal a body just to match some lyrics. I didn't believe it myself, but it can't just be a coincidence. It is as Fraulein Detective says. Let us begin with the first verse. If you would. What, you want me to sing it? You are the witness, yeah? Or did you want me to sing? I warn you, my fee as vocalist is not trivial. Fine, fine. Said there will be no singing. Hey there, Syntax. Just part of the lyrics. My favorite heart-shaped keyring was stolen that morning. Welcome to the broadcast. Joining us in the midst of the murder trial of Maki Tobai or something like that. We go to the right page of the lyric sheet. Prosecutor Gavin's guitar lighting on fire. With quite a bit of smoke. See, one way to take this is that they were trying to kill Gavin. I mean, you go back far enough, Okaneki, and people getting in the way of carriages and, motor cars was generally considered their fault. There was a period where that shifted to being like pedestrians were often, it was considered plausible to block it. But once you got cars on the road, you started to have automakers pushing hard to get laws passed to make it so that the cars had the right of way and not the pedestrians in a lot of places. That's why jaywalking is set up. They even made the name include a term that was derogatory at the time. It was a very active political campaign. So, like, the bullet of love, fire, take my life away, that's about when his guitar bursts into flames, and he starts panicking. So, was that when the gunshot happened? Yeah, Mr. Latouse's life was taken by a bullet. Bravo, Fraulein Detective, you're singing. It's not bad. Now for the finale. Just check this here. Yeah, so we're skipping the through the air I fly. And we're forcing the idea of the gunshot being simultaneous to the fire. Hey there, Ethan. Welcome. Is that actually the order of the song, or is it top to bottom, left to right, as opposed to left to right? Because it really seems like it's set up in columns, not in rows. It says in the lyrics, Mr. Latouse was found with a guitar high in the sky over the stage. No series of coincidences could be so well conceived. He's right, scientifically speaking. Well, your guitar purchase aligns with core elements of the case here, Ethan. It is a murder that happened at a rock concert, and the absence and presence of guitars seems relevant. What would Waki have said? That concert was whack? I am entirely pleased that we are done with Waki. It's hard to argue when she pours her heart into it like that. Anyway, the shooter moved the body to match the song. Does the prosecution have any idea why he'd do all this? Want my scientific opinion? No clue. But he clearly had a reason to go through all that trouble. Some deep reason. I mean, it seems incredibly implausible that the child would be able to move that carcass and get it up on the platform, all without being seen again. I mean, maybe that's why he's unconscious. He collapsed from exhaustion after pulling off that giant corpse drag sprint. I can't recall if I actually saw it in a video, but the whole... Oh, I saw it in a little cartoon-like short of somebody getting some boba, trying to inhale it very quickly, choking on it, clearing their throat out, fully, and then resuming inhaling the boba again. A deep reason? Not only did he steal my keys, he torched my guitar. Unforgivable acts, even if he had a reason. And worse, if he had none. The diva's complaints aside, I can't imagine someone doing this on just a whim. Caroline Detective, I take offense at that description. She generally calls... generally she calls him a glimmerous fop. They've tried to correct her and say, don't you mean glamorous? And she says no, and it's effectively no, he's all glimmery, like sparkly. It does seem too well rehearsed, shall we say. Yes, this crime was planned for sure. But Mr. Latouche spoke English. He may have come to this country before. I looked into that, I assure you. Oh? It was his first time in the country, it seems. Apparently he learned English on his own. Great. You see? No one here had a motive to kill him. And certainly not in such an elaborate fashion. It does seem difficult to imagine, unless our famous prosecutor did it as a publicity stunt. What did you say? Is that a risk that is higher than the average for the population? A risk of a bass guitarist being killed in some fashion? I mean, given the stereotypes of drummer, I could see that provoking assault. In a stereotypical sense, of course. Prosecutor Gavin, you did this to promote your song? Of course not, and I am quite dismayed by the ludicrous nature of her claim. Why would I need promotion? Everybody already listens to my music. They're even in my textbook at school. I'd never heard of them. What did that say about me? I was kidding. Don't get all worked up, Glimmer Boy. do you mean by his signature? The bullet holes in the wall, of course. The bullet holes? The revolver was fired twice. One shot missed and left a hole in the wall. And that means what exactly? That dressing room isn't exactly spacious. Picture the shooter facing off with the victim in there. They can't have been more than 5 feet apart. It would be difficult, almost impossible to miss at that range. Difficult to miss, you say? Very. Assuming the shooter could properly aim. You can't be serious. Maki, he can't see. How would he... Okay, so they're bringing up he would have a hard time aiming because he's blind. I mean, setting aside your Daredevil style, you know, my senses are enhanced, so I'm a sharpshooter now, kind of mechanic. That's your excuse for the missed shot at close range? Like, that's the excuse? Can't see. That's why he missed? As opposed to has never fired a .45 revolver before and maybe the kick made him miss. Or has fired it before and it's still a big gun. It's the only explanation that makes sense. He used sound and other senses to fire the gun. In the room, completely awash in amplified rock music. He used sound and his other senses to fire the gun. Poorly. That reminds me, the monitor in that room was blaring at the time, yeah? Hardly ideal conditions for tracking by sound. Blind shooter. No wonder he missed. I like how they're justifying he missed, but now they're not also addressing he fired the second time and landed the hit. Ace Attorney, man. Ace Attorney. Knew those bullet holes would come back to haunt me. Think, Justice, what do I do now? Alright, do we have anything in here? Now, let's try sit back and watch. I don't know what I can object. He couldn't see, so the first shot missed. As explanations go, it's airtight. It appears the shooter did leave his signature. I'm afraid this is looking bad for our young defendant. The witness may continue her testimony. So we might be able to loop back to that, but I don't think we can actually object to that assertion. I'm sorry, we don't have the proof that is necessary to break the assertion. It's, again, completely conjecture that the only way somebody could have missed at that range is if they are blind. And the defendant is blind. But that's right, Ruby. It is the whole presentation and characters of the series are why you play it. You don't play it because it's an accurate courtroom drama. I mean, a lot of it can be worth it just to see when the witness eventually has a total mental breakdown and does something weird. Can't say that for sure. Please, none of those non-scientific objections. They're bad for my complexion. What's so scientific about a murder to lyrics? Lyrics can be explained scientifically. Never underestimate the power of science. Put that bottle of fingerprinting powder down before you hurt someone, like me. He's brandishing the fingerprinting bottle. Then explain it scientifically. I require more data. Meh. Likely story. Looks so good, does it, Apollo? No, it doesn't. What do we do? First, we don't panic. Even though Maki's case is leaking water by the gallon, Gavin's on a roll, and it's up to me to stop it. Let's look through here. See, this is where I think there's the problem, is I really think it's top to bottom. And if you do that, then it matches more the production than anything else. That during the song, they were elevated up on the platform, and it ended with the guitar and the singer at the same time. And this is weird. We're going to try presenting the song here.
Objection!
Nope. Where we tried to present it. I thought it was the second line that I tried here. Let's try this again.
Objection!
Nope. So this feels like one of those moments where they want us to do some other stuff first. I still feel like I still feel like the lyrics don't follow like they say they follow. I don't like how we can't assert. How did he do it? Oh, Ghost, we are playing some Ace Attorney Trilogy, the Apollo Justice ones. We are trying to determine which piece of evidence on which statement we need here.
Hold it!
All right, we're skipping through. Got. So the revolver was left at the scene.
Objection!
No. Kind of thrashing at the moment here. So I don't know what they're getting at with the weakness here, aside from the glaring holes in what they have said, you know? I try this second one. Let's try it here just to be sure. Yeah. So this happens in these sometimes, is you'll get to a point and they want you to make a very particular logical leap. You might have the logical leap that they ultimately need to make in order to solve the mystery, but you're not allowed to use it until you're allowed to use it. Like, there will be a point where that's what you have to have. That's what you have to do. But instead, you have to, like, you have to make terribly bad leaps for a little bit sometimes. It can get very weird. Yes. At least once we've had to look up what they want you to do. Because I never like it when we reach a stage where I'm just like banging evidence against statements and finding which one works. So I don't think his autopsy matters. Nobody from this country. It's like, well, Gavin's keys were stolen. All right. One moment. Look at some cats. We're on 3-day 1. Okay, this is... Okay. Yeah. Not terribly satisfying, this. Okay. So we need to get to that part where we said it was fine. So, Maki was blind. It's difficult that he could have missed. Fired twice. You know, second shot hit, first one missed. And because he was blind, he would try to shoot by sound, and the room was loud, so he had trouble aiming. Like, this whole assertion is shoddy, that, well, he was blind, that's why he missed, as opposed to any other possibility. So, we have to raise an objection here. Normally, what you would do is, after going through the conversation, you can present evidence when reviewing it. But unless you press and get to this point, you can't object to the statement. There are bullet holes left in the wall, but that doesn't prove the shooter couldn't see. How so? There could have been a struggle with the victim. Certainly possible the room is trashed. And it might have been the revolver's fault. See, we tried to present the revolver there. This is him presenting the revolver. The revolver? The revolver was a very large caliber, correct? If the shooter wasn't used to firing such a large weapon... Hello Neighbor's not, like... I wouldn't mind watching someone play through it, but I don't like closet stealth games. Shooter wasn't used to firing such a large weapon, it could dislocate their shoulder. Okay, that's a more accurate statement than, you know, it would shatter their bones or something like that. Exactly. The defendant, Maki Tobai, is, as you can see, tiny. It's not so hard to picture him firing the gun and missing entirely. The kickback alone would throw his aim. A convincing argument, to be sure. So they're about to say, yeah, but that doesn't change the fact that it could have been Maki. Apollo? What? That bit about Maki being tiny and the gun throwing off his aim. Aren't you kind of, admitting that he did it? Oh. Does not matter why he missed. What matters is that the shooter was, without a doubt, the defendant. Because I say so. Even the defense seems to agree on that point. I put my foot in it this time, but let's get the facts of the matter on record. If you would, Fraulein Detective. The witness will add this to her testimony. That's what we need. That particular moment was obnoxious. Okay. State of the crime scene, I conclude that the shooter was blind. Can't say he was blind just because of those bullet holes in the wall. I think I've proven that. Wouldn't call it proof, per se, huh? You've merely raised a possibility like she did. Oh, yeah. But I do play a variety of things now and again, Ethan. The game development project is chewing a lot of time. It's enjoyable, though. And we try to get through these, but the Ace Attorney games can take a while to get through. So usually by the end of one, we've got something else queued up. Fraulein Detective has made a most logical conjecture based upon the evidence. Of course, there is more evidence than just bullet holes. The defendant was the only one who could have escaped through the air vent. But wait, if he was blind, how would he know about the air vent in the first place? A very good point. Well, Fraulein Detective, would you care to explain? Certainly seems sure of himself. Recall the crime scene, if you would. There's a stepladder below the air vent. As it happens, maintenance was scheduled for that day. Custodial staff went around checking all the air vents. I don't believe it. Everyone backstage was told about the maintenance, including Maki. He would have known that there would be a way out at the top of that stepladder. But why is this the first time I'm hearing about this? You could have figured it out for yourself. You only needed to consider what that stepladder was doing there. It's like the defense's objection has been squished by a stepladder. Well, hair forehead? Out of ammunition, perhaps? Never seen Prosecutor Gavin so aggressive. Maybe he's caught the scent of blood. Hello, Ember. Ember has come to join me. Do you have something? Anything? You know what we need. We need something to prove the killer could see. That'll put him in his place. Proving the shooter was sighted would do it. It would take down one of their central points. Do I have any evidence that can prove that, though? This feels like a do you want to continue the game statement, so I'm going to say we can present evidence. Accept the prosecution's challenge, as I knew you would, Hair Forehead. Exactly am I up against here? The prosecution is saying the shooter missed because he couldn't see. Therefore, Maki, who's blind, did it. Defense will please present its evidence. Evidence that overturns the prosecution's claim that the shooter couldn't see. This is the evidence that I think. So you see how the inevitable message that the deceased wrote in blood is smudged. This is what I guess. This sounds like we guessed right. It's this evidence. Photograph of the crime scene. I don't care much for the smirk on Prosecutor Gavin's face, but this is no time to think twice. Time to press on. Yes, Your Honor, the crime scene. There's something here that decisively contradicts the prosecution's point. And perhaps you'd best show us this something. Get your finger out of the breeze and put it... Is that a reference to the thing where, you wet your finger and put it up to determine, like, wind direction? I don't get it. Gavel. Show us what you're talking about, Mr. Justice. The contradiction is right here. The smeared bloodstains? I thought it was just my blurry vision. But it really was blurry. The way the victim's hand is raised above his head, much like a gesture I've seen many times in this court. And they've played the victim wrote a message in blood quite often. Almost as if he wrote something. Get it? At least I think I get it. Get what, Fraulein? When Mr. Latouche was shot, he tried to write something. And what would he write but the shooter's name? And what would he write in but his own blood? Pretty good, huh? Thanks for making my point for me. Yes, in fact, that's what I think happened here. Does seem a distinct possibility. The victim wrote the killer's name. Certainly a logical conclusion. Just wish it wasn't all rubbed out like that. Of course it's rubbed out. Why, if I were a killer, I certainly wouldn't want to leave my own name behind. Neither would I. Pause. 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 No one has anything else to say? About what? So the prosecution accepts this. You agree that it was the victim making an attempt to record the name of the killer, and that the killer tried to rub the name out. What's your point? What's my point? Let me ask you this. How did the killer know the victim was writing their name? Well, Mr. Latouche was writing something in blood. Once the killer saw what it was... Wait. He saw what it was. The entire room, aside from the defense, very slowly catching on. But what did you just testify about the shooter? Like a early elementary teacher trying to prompt a student into the right answer. Go on, use your words. Yet the crime scene itself contradicts that. The killer had to have been able to see. Why would they rub out a name in blood otherwise? Ah. May I remind the court that the defendant, Maki Tobai, is blind. He couldn't have been the shooter. Impossible. Gavel, gavel, gavel. Prosecutor Gavin, please explain to me what all this means. I mean, looking at this photo, it seems quite clear that the shooter could see. Yet up until now, it seems I owe the court an apology. The Gaviniers are a band with law enforcement ties, yet a murder occurred during our concert, apparently for jurisdiction. As a result, some reports were not filed in an entirely timely manner. I'm not sure I like the vibe I'm getting here. Apollo, look at him. Why is Prosecutor Gavin all relaxed and smiling like this? This is the, what is often used in a meme is, did you not get the updated autopsy report thing? Where they let you go on and on how the autopsy report wildly contradicts the statements of a witness, and then the prosecution is like, oh, but didn't you know we have a new autopsy report that confirms what the witness said? Yeah, we knew this all along, but we let this go on for a while. He knows something we don't, and he's about to tell us. I've got an idea. Let's rock. With these documents, but before that, I have a question for the Fraulein detective. If I may? Huh? Tell me, why do you think that Maki Tobai is blind? Huh? What did he say? What are you saying? Of course he's blind. Of course. He's the blind pianist, right? So he's... Doesn't Lamorar lead him around by the hand all the time? No way. I have a report here on the defendant, Maki Tobai. So we're back to the only evidence against him is that he's small so that he could fit in the vent, and the gun is big so it would have made him miss. That's still all they've got on him. According to this, Maki Tobai can see perfectly well. What? His blindness was merely a publicity ploy by those clever Borginians. He can see quite well. What you said? What did I say exactly? Their forehead, not once in the course of this trial have I claimed the defendant was blind. The only one who did was Fraulein Detective. But that's a significant fact, yes. Consider, Maki Tobai sees, and he was the only one who could have fled through the air vent. I see no problems with this. What about the bullet holes in the wall? Yes, the bullet holes. I believe Herr Forehead neatly explained those for us. He didn't miss because he couldn't see. It was the kickback. He didn't miss because he couldn't see. It was the kickback from the 45 caliber revolver. A simple accident, in other words. We also never found shells on the floor. How's that? I'm afraid your objection has just flown off for brighter skies. This is where the real fun begins, Herr Forehead. Apollo's, I am really shocked animation is somewhat better, even better than Phoenix's. I knew you didn't have what it took. You jerk. Just what was I in here for, comic relief? Yeah, apologize. That's the other is, they don't have to present any evidence to the defense. Like, there is no accounting for evidence that anybody will supply. It is all filed at the time of the trial when they want to bring it up. So it is perfectly allowed for the prosecution to conceal evidence entirely. Like, they could have something and not present it. In the same way, it's perfectly okay for the defense to do that. Like, we routinely pick up evidence at crime scenes and crime scene adjacent areas and just stuff it in our pockets to reveal during the trial. There's no way to apologize. He's angered the Trucy now. Look out. Well, thanks, Ruby. A generally chill atmosphere is what we usually go for. If we can please end the bickering now. Whatever, I'm not leaving. I can't leave like this. I'll come up with some clue to solving this case if it kills me. But your testimony has already given us enough to convict the defendant. Don't say that. Aha, what? This bloodstain. The criminal tried to wipe it off, right? That seems to be what happened, yes. We might be able to find out what was really written there. So this will circle back to when we originally encountered Emma when she was a high schooler-ish, when she had saved up all of her money to get some luminol spray because she was trying to be like she was trying to play at forensic investigation, which was what she wanted to do. And the spray that she used would, with those lenses that she's got, could highlight blood stains that had been wiped away, like the remnants thereof. Really? You can do that? That's right, with this. It's called luminol. Maybe you know of it? It's a chemical that reacts to blood. One of the games, her luminol spray and the fingerprint powder were very commonly used. We have done those. Have we done those tests yet? As if I'm going to tell you, you jerk. Lead me around by the nose and humiliate me? Well, it's your turn. Game on, prosecutor, said the detective under his command. The bloodstains covered a section of the carpet. In order to perform blood tests, that section was removed and submitted. Perhaps we should request it here in court now. Go for it, Apollo. Huh? I have to do the test? Just have to spray the luminol on it. Chemical that reacts to blood. I've heard of this somewhere. Believe an analysis is called for. Have at it. Ready? It's easy as pie. Just press space to spray the area. The eyes of the entire court are focused on me. Your hand's shaking. Let's do this. Like IPYX314206. Or it could be another one of those it's upside down, but the I seems prominent. Really works. This must be the power of science. Science? IPXX314206. Is that the killer's name? No, it's their gamer tag. Only the first part of it, though. The rest is like underscore triple X Sephiroth underscore triple X 360 no scope 420. I have it. So what is it? I thought those letters IPXX looked familiar. This is an Interpol ID number. Interpol? You mean the International Police Agency? Yes, most are undercover agents working to solve international crimes. Why would he write that number? Why would Mr. Latouche even know a number like that? Good show, Fraulein Detective. Rock on. Huh? Your Honor, we can verify this number immediately. Darian, are you there? Come up to the witness stand. Is he going to be in his kigurumi? Is he going to be in his jammies with his incredibly phallic hair? He is. Isn't that wonderful? You heard what we need. Go check into this Interpol ID number. Sure thing. Give me 30 minutes. Give me 27. You can't really appreciate his haircut from face on. He needs to be in profile. Not sure what to think of all this. The prosecution's case is airtight, or so it seems. And if this number is really that of an Interpol agent... Oh wait, I know. What if Maki Tobai is really an undercover Interpol agent? That would be a possibility. Possibility, yes. And one that would mark him as the killer for certain. What? Why did Latouche know an Interpol ID number? That's what I want to know. Well, we have some time while we await Darian's report. Let's work on unraveling another mystery, shall we? A curious mystery concerning Maki Tobai. What are you talking about? Fraulein Detective, please accept my apologies. I received word the defendant could, in fact, see just before the trial began. You could have still interrupted as soon as his sightedness became relevant, you jerk. It seemed too much of a bother to tell you while you were basing your testimony entirely on him being blind. You had me until that last bit. Does this not raise a rather straightforward question? Well, sure. Why did Maki pretend he couldn't see? You guys established that. It makes little sense, except that just like they make it so that Lammeror can't speak the language and needs an interpreter to make her seem more exotic, him being a blind pianist makes him seem more exotic. That's... Why is this special? Well, let's see what sort of soap opera nonsense is the answer. Makes little sense. What do you think, Hair Forehead? Huh? Me? Maki Tobai pretended he was blind. Do you know why? How could he know? Wait, Prosecutor Gavin knows why, doesn't he? He's known from the start of the trial. He's been leading us on the whole time. Something wrong? You think perhaps this is all some kind of game? Know that the moment I heard that report, I knew why. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you. First, you've got to embarrass yourself a little bit. Wow. The more we hear from Gavin, the more obnoxious he is. Like, with some of the other prosecutors, you can see, like, they're sort of a villain, or they have very questionable motives as far as their antagonism, like Godot. But Gavin just seems to be a jerk. Put my brother in jail when it turns out he murdered something. Well, I'll show you. I'm sure he's going to be our long-lost twin brother who was cloned and, like, replaced by an android that was later found to be manufactured by aliens who had actually created another clone. And this was the actual clone, but was actually the brother all along. And you could tell because he didn't have the little mustache. I suppose people who have sold over 1 million records really are something else. Does that have to do with anything? There's a reason why Maki Tobai pretended to be blind, but it wasn't for his own sake. Getting the picture now? Wasn't for himself? Well, Mr. Justice, can you present evidence that shows us why the defendant had to feign blindness? Why are we doing it? Why isn't the judge just looking at him and saying, shut up and get on with it, prosecutor? Well, we know why he's not. It's just, we wish he would. I don't think it's any of those. Let's pretend right here that it's the postcard. No reason to pretend he couldn't see, which means, no, it couldn't be. Show Hair Forehead, it seems you've thought of something. And I figure these things out on my own. I haven't need to take my cues from this guy. Is Lamorar? Lamorar and Maki Tobai. Recall their relationship. In particular, their unique arrangement over the years before visiting our country. Lamorar and her pianist. They would always walk together, she leading him by the hand. It had better not be the pairing of the two of them, because I thought they already established that gimmick. But maybe I'm just misremembering. When they got on stage, she would lead him to the piano. She would walk all the way over there with him. That's right, because he was blind. She led him at all times, never letting him go. At all times. Yet we have just learned something that makes their arrangement peculiar indeed. Maki could see. Why did they have to keep up this act the whole time? Wasn't it part of their performance? I think there's a simpler explanation. Maki did not need to be led by the hand at all. That can only mean one thing. Really? It was all the other way around. The one who needed to be led by hand was Lamorar. Well, I mean, I said soap opera nonsense, so let's roll. What's this? So you mean to say that Lamorar is... she's... Yes, Your Honor. Lamorar is blind. It's crazy. Prosecutor Gavin. Is it now? Please shed some sanity on this madness. Okay, so let's loop all the way back around to Lamorar's testimony, where they heavily dismissed it. So she has just asserted that she is blind. That we have asserted that she is blind. She twice said, I could see something that she couldn't have seen. But then she had also said she could hear people talking in the room. Which to me sounds like, okay, if she couldn't have seen it and she knew he was shot and she could hear people in the room, then wouldn't it be that she could hear his voice when she shot him? And that all she would need to do is hide somewhere in the trashed room when a couple of people busted in, because we know that the door opened and closed before Emma Skye ran in. So, unless she is lying when she said she didn't see anybody, there was still time for somebody to flee. But again, we have a lot of soap opera nonsense to get through, so let's keep going. Shed some sanity on this madness. The defense has made an outrageous claim. The only thing outrageous I see about the defense is his vast forehead. It keeps getting bigger. It's like Invader Zim mocking Dib's head size. Oh, now it's gigantic. And I see it is not vast in vain this time. He's quite correct. But that makes no sense. Yeah, wasn't she supposed to be the landscape painter in sound or something? Well, since we have her here, why not ask Lamorar herself? I believe she's still in the waiting room, the witness waiting room. What does this mean for our case? Don't ask me. I had no idea she couldn't see. I hadn't even imagined it until now. Bailiff, bring in Lamorar. Kind of mutter her name because it's that last series of letters is kind of brutal. Lamorar, it pains me deeply to call you before us again in this way. And yet I must. Please do not be concerned on my behalf. Those eyes, she really can't see? Really? It is true. How funny it is that a tiny lie born in the Borginian countryside would one day grow to entangle the entire world. That's a claim. So you are, yes, as I mentioned before, I have no memory of the time before I became Lamorar. Know, too, that my memories begin in darkness. The word light has no meaning for Lamorar. I see. You may recall me saying something toward the beginning of this trial, Hair Forehead. What's that? If I said it was unfortunate this crime had no direct witnesses. Ah. Now, Lamorar, I must ask you to stand once more. So one way that we can mark this is that she keeps saying like, "Oh, I couldn't see the body. I wasn't there." And then she started asserting that she did see something, but that it wasn't Maki, and that's still kind of spotty. Because if he knew that she could see, but let that testimony go without intervening. No, he said, no, he should have had it by then. Because he said he didn't get the information until she started testifying, until Emma started testifying. So he should have known she was blind while she was talking about seeing things. And could have just declared that. And that would have made her, like, that could have said, you're an unreliable witness because you say you saw it, but you couldn't have. That's absurd. We can't trust you. As opposed to kind of hand waving it and saying like, well, you know, witnesses lie in here all the time, but man, that we can only let you have one failure before you're out. So you testified to the court about your eyes. Do we actually care about her eyes? Let's find out. Of course, it was never my intent to deceive any of you. But I totally did. Actively deceive all of you. Willfully. Which implies that she meant it. Saw a little pop-up there. What's going on? Sure nothing's exploding. Okay, everything seems fine. Saw a weird screen flicker. Yes, of course. Though I admit, I'm a little lost here. I think we're all a bit lost here, Your Honor. I've no memory of the light. I debuted in a world of darkness and sound. My producer came up with my PR line before he knew this. So silly as it may sound, I had to pretend I could see. Everyone on my staff knew, of course, but no others. But this is a murder trial. I apologize, it was part of my contract, you see. It was to keep my blindness a secret, no matter what. Music is everything for me. I never imagined something like this would. She told us the truth in the beginning, when she said she saw nothing. No. 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 Bad prosecutor. Very well. Does the defense have anything to add? I'd like to cross-examine. Well, what is there left to ask? There was one thing in her testimony that bothered me. Perhaps it's best we let you get it out of your system. Someday you'll come to understand the importance of thinking for yourself. Well, the defense may proceed. However, be aware this court will not tolerate any questions deemed too stressful for the witness. They have done that. I haven't seen it again, but they did have a case where if you pressed on something that the game deemed you not actually needing to press on it, it immediately penalized you. If the rest of the game didn't convince you to save regularly, that is the moment that it convinces you to save regularly. Speaking of which, let's save. me ask about that and I'll be happy.
Hold it!
So you don't know why you went blind? I do not. I may have been born this way, in fact. It's fruitless to attempt to pry into our past, and might I add, it's a delicate subject. Not sure we can reasonably expect Mr. Justice to do anything delicately. Take a deep breath and calm down. What I am now is all that I have. It is enough, I think.
Hold it!
I'm thinking it's the nobody knew. Because it would be weird if Tobai didn't know when he was pretending to be blind for the whole operation, you know? Are you nervous to hit the stage in your condition? Not at all, surprisingly. It felt natural singing in front of everyone. It's not something just anyone can do. She has talent, that much is clear. You might even say she is beloved by the gods of music. Even without light, I live perfectly happy in my world of sound. If that is a talent, as you say, then I thank the gods responsible. What about your PR motto?
Hold it!
Perhaps your music reminded him of the Borginian scenery? No, it was quite the opposite. The opposite? According to my producer, my music has a certain global quality. Global? Multicultural, if you will. Hard to pin to one region. When people listen to it, they picture the country closest to their hearts. Which is why my music has reached so many. What a lovely story. Sounds like this producer might have known what he was doing after all. My songs are nothing more than a white canvas. To me, the real landscape painters are the listeners. I think of that, I do not mind how I am represented to the world so much. Yet one thing quickly led to another. Was that to protect your image as the landscape painter in sound? That does not matter so much to me, really. But the label is quite concerned about it, I think. A landscape painter who can't see. That's like a pianist who can't play, huh? Not sure you can compare your father to Lamaror. Phoenix poses as the pianist for a Russian restaurant. But his actual job is to be, with the help of Trucy, a card sharp in the back room. Is it actually shark? I think it's shark. I don't know where I'm getting sharp. I'd swear I've heard card sharp before, though. Anywho. But he would either beat people at poker or cheat in order to beat people at poker. That was his real job. So that's what she's referring to. The world of commercial music is filled with these little white lies. Nothing is sacred when it comes to publicity. Everyone on my staff knew, of course, but no others. When you say your staff, do you include Mr. Latouche? Of course, he was my manager. So he knew, and that's what's been bugging me. Something the matter, Mr. Justice? I believe I know what is bothering our young defense attorney. You are thinking of when you discovered the body, yes? Is he right, Apollo? Okay, when the guy said the witness, and then he says siren, oh yeah, Sherbet is one of those cats that kind of contorts himself when he's comfy. So he'll do those things where it looks like he's bent at a 90-degree angle upside down and it still looks so happy about it. Yes, I was. I think this is like the fourth time it's at least the third time we've reviewed this exact scene, but I know at least once more. In addition to seeing it initially. Witness can't see. The witness is Sai Ren. But the assumption is that's a stutter, but it could be that there's some other word we're looking for. And it's that he might have said when can't see. That might have been him, or he might be asserting that she can't see. So Latouche told me to ask the witness, and he named you. Why would he do that? He knew you were blind. I don't know. What did I just say? You need to learn to think for yourself. Meaning what? There's no mystery here if you recall everything he said. Think of his last words once more. The witness, Siren. Heard that many times before, along with a little play acting by our defense. I remember them well myself, but that statement is not what I refer. I mean, what he said before that. Came before that. Yeah, more Ace Attorney, Lunar. That's right, he tried to tell you when he said can't see, he wasn't talking about himself, he was talking about the witness. I see. Too bad the defense did not. Well, hair forehead, try relaxing and looking at the facts first next time. And we will now ignore that whole sequence that it led to, where she asserted that she did see something. And like several times asserted she could see something that happened. Something that would have been incriminating, as opposed to just sticking to her guns. Aha. And eventually just revealing it, or the prosecution revealing that she couldn't have. Gabble gabble. Recall Lamarar's earlier testimony. On my way from the stage to the backstage exit, there were 2 shots. I couldn't do anything to stop it. But she couldn't have heard those gunshots. I thought we proved that. It's not the most important point here. The moment he was shot, Mr. Latouche witnessed her through that window. Why else would he have named her as the witness? Why else would she have... But why would she say that she could see it through the little window that she has never seen? Good old Ace Attorney. Let's see how this... Oh, but I really did hear them. 2 gunshots in the man's voice. Unfortunately, such a thing was impossible. The window was closed. You know, it was like 5 inches of tempered glass, that window. That's why it can only open a little bit. That's why you couldn't possibly have heard it, you know, through the drywall or something. You've already run a simulation, of course. It was so clear. If I heard that voice again, I would know it in an instant. Your Honor. What is it, bailiff? Can't you see we're in session here? We have the results back from the investigation. The investigation? Ah, the Interpol number that Mr. Latouche left us. Let's hear it. We will continue this cross-examination afterwards. Detective Crescent, your report, please. Wonder what his name is a riff on. Darien Crescent. Asked Interpol about that number. Sure you'll find their answer intriguing? Quick work as always, Darien. Well, tell us about the number. The defendant a secret agent? The agent registered under this number was Romain Latouche. What? Our undercover Interpol agent was Mr. Latouche himself. He was apparently in the middle of an operation. So when he wrote those letters, he was trying to tell us his own identity. And a cautious killer tried to wipe them away. Mr. Latouche was an undercover Interpol agent. So him being Lamarar's manager was just a cover, most likely. There's one other important detail I found. I'll out with it. It concerns that .45 caliber revolver, the murder weapon. Apparently it belonged to Romain Latouche. Oh, I finally got it. His name is a pun. It's Romain Latouche. Romaine lettuce. Haha. That took way too long. I mean, the names always are something. He had an Interpol permit to carry firearms, and the registration number on the revolver matched. So the victim was killed with his own weapon, which makes sense. It's hard to imagine someone who wasn't an Interpol agent with such a large revolver. Isn't this game supposed to be set in the US? Like, at least outside of Japan, it is canonically like the US? Because if that's the case, it's hard to imagine someone who wasn't an Interpol agent with a large revolver. Makes no sense at all. We got kids running around with assault rifles, man. So the victim was an Interpol agent on an undercover op. Wonder how that ties into everything. It's got to tie in somehow, you'd think. Yeah, somehow. Gavel. Thanks for looking into that, Detective Crescent. Darien Crescent. Great help. Oh, no problem at all, Your Honor. I'll be heading out. Wait. Lamarar, is something the matter? That voice just now. Darien? Mr. Darien, is it? It was him. I am sure of it. She did assert she never forgets a voice. It was him? You aren't saying... That voice I heard, talking to Mr. Latouche. When I heard the gunshots fired, it was him. It was Mr. Darien. Oh. Clavier's, a shocked animation is accompanied by microphone feedback. Or at least speaker feedback on an electric guitar. Is some kind of joke? What? No way. Okay, it's just his coat. Not, full jammies. The courtroom fell into such a chaotic state. The trial had to be suspended temporarily. Never seen that happen before. Of course, it's not every day that you get an accusation like that one. Pushing buttons. Lamarar, fingering Darien Crescent. Yeah, I know, but still. Haha, giggle. Not only is he a guitarist, he's a detective. Could it really have been his voice Lamorar heard? Things were changing fast, and frankly, I wasn't sure I could keep up with it. Ain't no wimping out now, Apollo. Hey. Well, decent ending point. Was planning on running tonight until we got one of these past the normal ending point of the stream, but we hit one just a little after, So yeah, getting back into some Apollo Justice. It's good times. I do want to finish this whole trilogy. We're not even through the first game. So I may schedule another session of this game later the week. The rest of it's probably going to be our game development. Still having a good time with that. Still real engaged. So we'll see how that goes. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I hope you all had a good time. And if you want to see more content like this, remember to like, subscribe, follow, comment, all those good things. The buttons are good. Press them. It will help the algorithm serve up more content like this, and maybe you'll see more of my streams. In the meantime, I hope you all have a good rest of your day, and I will hopefully see you next time.